I'm doing this video on the fly. I didn't make a script, but this is a review of the Hover Pro Max for runners. And I think that you can find a lot of videos on YouTube that are going to give you all the specifics about what it does and its settings. And I'm not going to go too much into that. I just want to show you how a runner would actually use this and whether it's effective. In the past, I was using 360 cameras and GoPros, but I didn't think that they were as effective as this drone. Some of the footage that I've gotten from this drone is just unbelievable compared to using the other cameras that I had used before. So I hope as you see this video and see me running in different locations that you might consider this. I've not been sponsored by the company. I just did this out of my own in the hopes that it would help runners decide if it's something that would help them. So enjoy, and maybe you'll learn a little bit about this new toy that I have. Now it's time to get very serious and talk about what the Hover could do. The Hover's a pretty serious drone, so I'm going to give you some serious discussion points on why I think that it's an amazing tool for a runner. If you're running and you have the Hover and you want to record, one of the things that's not fairly obvious in all the videos that you see is you just see the Hover taking right off. What they don't tell you is that you really got to be almost completely stopped. So here's a good example. The Hover is already on and you've got to push the button and it's got to see you. So the green light means that it's on. And when you put it on, then you're going to see it blink a couple of times, and not until that light is red is it actually on. So right now you can see that the light is red, so that means that it's recording, so it'll follow you now. So I'm running backwards and you could see in the distance that the light is red. It's recording me. And then when you stop, it's got to go back to green, because if it's in red it still thinks that it's following you. So sometimes you see people make an X and then it'll stop, but it doesn't always just turn green all the time. Sometimes you just got to reach your hand up to it and stop it. But normally it's supposed to see you from a distance, and then the light will turn green and then it'll get closer to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it into
indoor follow, cycling mode, side track, dolly track.
So dolly track. So assuming that the Hover was on and I'm running, and as I'm running I've got to stop, and then once I stop, then you turn it on,
dolly track,
and it'll start blinking green, and you got to look at it. Once that light is red like it is right now, then it's recording. So right now it's recording, that red light is on, and then I'm going to stop, and when I stop, I can't see it in the light here because it's really bright, but when it does that like that, the light turned green. Then you can recover it. Then that's how you recover it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to completely turn it off. And then I'm going to pretend that I was running. And so as I'm running, I take the Hover out of my bag or my pocket, wherever it may be when you're running. And sometimes you just turn it on as you're running, like I'm doing right now, and it's going to take a little bit of time to power up. When it's powered up, you hear the chime,
current mode, dolly track,
and it tells you what the track is. So it was set into dolly,
Orbit.
but I want it to go into follow. So if I push the button right away,
Close. Follow.
you gotta wait for it to stop. Then it turns on, and then it's red. The light is red, so it's gonna follow me. And as it's following me, it should be able to follow me, pick up the sound recording, and then we can recover it. So the light is red. Can't really catch it unless you're tall. If you're short, you might not be able to. And then that's what I said. Sometimes it has trouble going to the green, so you could recover it. But I'm tall. I could just reach up there. So sometimes they show this trick where you can do this X, but it doesn't always do that for me, depending on the lighting conditions. So in this case, I just have to reach out and then it'll land, and then you can see that the light is green. One of the things that I want to show is if you're running with the hover, in the videos they just show it taking off, but in reality, if you're running with it in your vest or in a pocket and you're actively moving, you have to actually stop for it to take off. It does not take off right away. So I'm running right now, and I'm gonna stop, and then I'm gonna open up the hover and I'm gonna turn it on. And then it takes a little bit for it to turn on. And then you just have to press the button just right. Sometimes if you don't press the button right, it won't power up. So once it's powered up and it says hover, then it's powered. So the green light will turn on and it'll tell you what mode is in.
Follow.
So it's in follow. So then
Hover.
I'm gonna go to
Indoor follow. Cycling mode. Side track.
dolly track. So in dolly track, then you have to push the button,
Dolly track.
and then when the light starts blinking green, the hover is going to take off, and you have to wait for the light to turn red. Once the light is red, then the hover is recording, and it will do a good job at following you. But I just want to show you how is it that you recover. So you actually have to stop, and then the hover is going to stop flying, and at a certain point it'll turn green. Once that light is green, then you can recover it, but it doesn't always do it. And again, when you take off for the first time, if the power is off, it just takes a little bit. It doesn't happen instantaneously like they show you on some of the videos, but it does work. And if you're trying to create content and be creative, of course you're going to have the time to do that. When you first set up the hover, one of the things that it asks you to do is for you to take a picture of your face so that it could recognize facial features. And as a runner, I wondered whether or not this would work with others that you might run with, because not everybody's going to have a hover in your running group, and some of them might want to have a video of themselves running in any of the modes that the hover offers. So I wanted to test that, and we'll show you 2 short video clips of very different individuals who push the button in follow, and the hover doesn't necessarily recognize my face or anybody's face. I think it just generally recognizes human facial features, and it was able to work with these 2 individuals that had the hover follow them. This was my first test of someone else besides me push the button and to see if the hover would recognize their facial features. So I went up into the Oakland Hills with my friend Linda, and she pushed the button and it had no problem following her. So I was convinced it could basically follow anyone. I did a second test of facial recognition with my neighbor's son who's under 10. Once he pushed the button, it recognized him and had no problem following him. So I'm convinced it could follow anyone. When I have had crashes, it's when I launch the hover under low light conditions. The hover has a feature I don't know what it's called as I'm running, but it's a feature that it needs to see the ground. And if you're in low light and launch it like in a dark forest, it might have trouble seeing the ground. And that's when I've had crashes in follow, but it doesn't happen very often. So when I'm running in a forest, I try to launch it in a bright spot. So another thing that people might be wondering about is, how does the hover do if you keep it in a running vest? A lot of runners now are using running vests, and I use the Solomon ADV Skin 12, I believe, and it has 2 pockets in the front. So what I do is I put the hover in the little cloth bag that it comes with. You can see it that I'm flipping in the air here. That's what I keep it in. Then I put it in one of the front bags, and I've probably run maybe 200 miles as I've been running with it, and it doesn't seem to affect the hover's gimbal. It's fine. I'll continue to run with it that way, and it jiggles a lot because I do a lot of trail running, and in general running is a bouncing sport, so it's fine inside that little cloth bag inside my running vest. As you could tell, I'm a pretty serious runner. And if you ask the great Alfonso, a friend of mine, if this is a good drone for runners, he would tell you it is. takes amazing videos. Sometimes you have issues with crashes and dolly track, but overall, it's a great drone for runners that want to document their runs either by themselves or with their friends.